Hey fam, it's your boy, 𝘀cie, and it's been a minute, but we are back and we are continuing to make a super cool song together. So let's get back into it. Let's pick up a little bit where we last left off, samples. Annie wanted some laughing, so here is some of me and my family laughing while playing video games. I wanted the dying sound from Ori and the Blind Forest. I didn't get the exact sound, but I did my best to replicate it, so here's that. My man Charlie B wanted some Portal Turret quotes.
I think I'm in love. Please don't hurt me. Oh no. I want to be an astronaut when I grow up. Goodbye.
And Dante, man, I did my best. I kept trying to make some cool light bulb sample sounds, and you know, well, we got some stuff to work with, but I don't know, it's just hard. It's hard to make some good samples from a light bulb. Rory, I'm still working on your thing. We'll get back to that soon. And 𝘀ecie wanted some Japanese vocal samples. I'm working with my new friend Enjuro.
He's the funnest!
And we're gonna hopefully get some of that ready, so stay tuned for that. So without further ado, let's get into Pro Tools and start organizing our form and getting our chords and melodies created and polished. So we've started an official session for our song now. The first thing that I like to do when creating a song is to solidify a basic form. So that includes basically what kind of places that we're going to go, the order that we travel to them in, and how long we're going to stay in each place. You guys will probably know them more colloquially as, you know, like choruses, verses, A sections, B sections, stuff like that. Let's look at your responses. So as you can see, everybody answered a little bit differently, but I believe that I've managed to capture all of our convictions, all of our ideas into a singular form like this. We're going to have an intro. We're going to start with a verse that's kind of an A type. I'll talk about that a little bit more later down the road. Then we're going to enter into a chorus of the A type, and then we're going to go into a B type verse. So basically the difference is the lettering is just to kind of differentiate chords that we're going to be using, the chord progressions that we'll be using. So it'll have a lot of the same feeling. All the verses will have a lot of the same feeling, probably a lot of the same rhythms, but they will have different chord progressions. Right after chorus A, we'll go into a B type verse, which is rapped per request by Isaac. And then we're going to go straight into a pre-chorus, and then we'll go into a B-type chorus. Then we'll take a break and go into a sort of bridge/instrumental. We'll kind of create a space and play around with some stuff. And then we'll finish off the song with a couple iterations of A-type chorus again, and we finish it all off with an outro. So I promised a couple of videos that I would flip a coin to figure out whether or not we're going to have some builds. Heads we have builds, tails we don't. Looks like we're having builds. Okay, so now that we've come up with a solid form, let's outline in our session to help us navigate the song later on. It's important to remain as organized as we can from the very beginning, because music and production can get very busy and complex pretty quickly. So every step of the way, we're going to make sure to reorganize, take some time. It's a little tedious, but it's important to make sure that we stay sane and sober-headed as we continue making music. So we've spent some time and outlined our different sections. For now, I've made them all 8 bars each, but obviously as we mess around with the different sounds and continue to produce the song, we will probably stretch some out, shorten some, so it's a little bit more variable and not so bland. So the next step then is to set the key and start playing around with chords and harmony. So let's review all the different kinds of chord progressions that you guys suggested. So 𝘀ecie said that our song is going to be in F minor, so I've set F minor up here. We're going to be in F minor. And Jack Martin suggested this chord progression. Annie suggested this chord progression here. Rory suggested this chord progression. Aono Densetsu suggested this chord progression. Isaac suggested something chromatic, which we will work in a bit. Dante suggested this chord progression. And CVM suggested we use some diminished chords like this. So we will work that in as well. So now that we have a bunch of progressions to work with, we have to determine a few things about them. Firstly, we have to figure out where each of these progressions belongs in the grand scheme of things in our song. For instance, does each progression sound like it's opening up towards something, or does it appear to be closing something? That can help us determine whether they belong in verses or choruses, that kind of thing. Are there any cool pairings? I mean, we've got all sorts of different chord progressions. Is there a pairing between them that sounds really particularly cool? Secondly, we have to assign something called harmonic rhythm to these chord progressions. So right now, these are just chord progressions that have no timing assigned to them at all. So harmonic rhythm is essentially how long each chord is held. Let's look at 𝘀ći's chord progression. So here's 𝘀ći's chord progression where each chord has the same value and they're being played relatively quickly. We could also stretch them out so that they're twice as long. All of that is harmonic rhythm, but we can go even further by maybe making some chords longer than others, right? So here's a totally different variation of harmonic rhythm where every chord has a different length. Right, so that's a totally different feel. We can even speed that up to twice the length. So you guys get the idea. Basically, we could go, even though it's the same chord progression, the same 4 chords, completely different feeling whenever we change the rhythm up. That's one thing that we have to go in with each of these chord progressions and figure out what harmonic rhythm do we want to assign to each one. So that was fun. Things are turning out well. I'm actually really starting to enjoy. I think it'll always take a little bit more work, but we got some really cool stuff starting to sprout. Of course, as always, stay tuned for next week. We're actually going to start working on some lyrics. I think we can take a break from the music production part and start working on themes and lyrical ideas and start writing some stuff. So stay tuned for that. And as always, subscribe if you're not already. Support me on Patreon if you feel so inclined. Or check out some of my other videos below. And go ahead and click on the bell if you want to be subscribed to get my videos the moment they come up. And thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for next week. We're going to do some crazy stuff.